Welcome to Gaia's Love, a podcast of brief messages to help humanity bridge the gap to the new earth. My name is Vivienne Gerard. It is my delight to be a scribe for consciousness today, sharing the wisdom that flows through from Source. Here we go. Episode 83. It is Friday today. Here in Cincinnati, it is gray and blah, and it's also Friday, and it's a weekend, so I'm arriving feeling good. I'm feeling so good. It has been a really beautiful week, and the title that came forward for today's podcast is Synchronicities. Synchronicities. I feel like I'm sitting in this space of such magic and delight and joy, and I want to share it in a way that somehow will make sense or will show the power of synchronicities. It's so hard to always translate what magic feels like inside of us when alignment and little moments of synchronicity happen, but I'm going to do my best. Okay, so as I was sitting here pondering, where do I start? I'm like, well, you got to go back to the beginning, right? That I'm going to share the story of Alicia and I. How about that? We'll go back to the beginning. So you may have heard this story. If so, you're going to hear something different and new in it today. So just sit back and enjoy a little storytelling on this Friday morning. About 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago, I met this beautiful healer. His name was Raphael, through a friend of mine. She hosted a gathering, and it was a sound healing. And so our friend that we had never met before, Raphael, I'd never met him, we show up, a group of my friends here from Cincinnati, at this home, and Raphael performed this incredible sound healing. It was many hours of us sitting in circle and him playing these incredible indigenous instruments and singing and chanting and playing music. It was just this amazing portal of sound. And if you've been listening to this podcast, you know how much I love sound and music and vibration. He held this impeccable, beautiful container of healing. And it was one of the most profound afternoons of my life. Absolutely magical. And we all had a similar experience in that space. So a month later, he was killed very unexpectedly in Egypt. And it was a shock. It was devastating in ways that didn't make sense for how short of a time we had known and met this man. But when souls connect, and souls have played in other lifetimes or dimensions or consciousness before, it's not logical. There isn't a set pattern or path that relationships take. You just love that soul. You just love them. There's no logic. There's no reason that can make sense to anyone except you and the soul that you are connecting with. And so we mourned. My friends here locally who had only met him just for that afternoon, we grieved, and we went back to our friend's house a few hours away in October. It was right around Halloween 3 years ago, and we had this beautiful memorial ceremony honoring the ways that we had felt connected to this person, to Raphael. And the next morning when we were getting ready to go, our friend played this album of music that she had heard on her phone. Raphael had put that album into her phone, and she found it after I believe it was after he had passed. She found it. And so she played some of these songs to us. And it was so beautiful. And the singer, the album was Alicia Mathewson. And we'd never heard the music before, and it just resonated so deeply. It just felt so connected to the energy of Raphael. So on the way home, I bought the album and started listening to it, and I would play shuffle on my phone while I was running, and each morning and over again, Alicia's songs would be singing to me. I only had one album at that time. It was her 2012 Isn't It Amazing album. And I would just listen to her songs and sing along, and there was one specific song where it was like flute music, and I could just feel the soul of Raphael, the energy of Raphael just dancing alongside me as I was running. It was just so magical. It just felt like this beautiful connection of love that transcends time and death and space. It was a beautiful, beautiful time. And then I didn't know Alicia. All I knew is I had this one album on my phone, and every time her songs would play, I would just feel so peaceful and so good. And so then I started working on my book, and when I wrote it, I included these song sound healing integrations in the book. And much of the book came directly from my experience with Raphael, the activation that he brought into my life. And so then I included some of Alicia's music in my book. And when I printed it, I sent her a copy, like I did to all the musicians that are in the book. And I just said, thank you for the inspiration of your music. You've been guiding me on my path. Well, Alicia got it, read the book, and then connected with me and said, this book resonates, like, can we connect? And so we had a couple phone conversations, and it was the same feeling as with Raphael. It was like, oh, I know this soul. Who is this soul? It was just the most beautiful connection of joy when you're in the same energy field with someone you know you have known before. It's just joyous. So last November, she came here, 11/11. She came here and had a concert, and it was just the most beautiful time. Like, in person, it was even more fun, and it didn't disappoint. It was like, oh, you are my friend. You've always been my friend. You'll always be my friend in the future. Like, it was just so easy and so fun and so natural to just share stories. And we began this friendship. And over the last year, we've both been doing a lot of healing and expansion and contraction and expansion and contraction. And she's coming to town next week again on 11/11 for another concert, which I'm so excited about. But here's just the tiny little nuggets of synchronicities that I want to share. When we are in alignment in our relationships, when we are opening our hearts and connecting to souls who are here to play and dance in this lifetime with us and teach us and guide us and cry with us and laugh with us, when we are in those harmoniously aligned relationships and connections, our souls send us these little winks and nudges and giggles to show the perfection of it. They show us the synchronicities. And if we are awake and paying attention, those little moments are treasures. They're gifts that we can just unpackage and enjoy and delight in. And we all have the potential for this. What I'm sharing here in my story with Alicia, anyone can create when you're open to calling those kinds of friendships into your life. It's not unique just for me or for Alicia. We could have 20 Alicias, 200 Alicias if we wanted. We can call in, well, let me rephrase that. Connections, like the connection I have with Alicia's soul. You can't have 200 Alicias. It's just not possible. There's only one. But you could have 200, 3,000, 5 million connections with beautiful souls, if that's what you call in. It's possible for anyone and everyone, and I know that. So when we allow those relationships to show up and then the synchronicities show themselves, it just becomes the most joyous, delightful journey. So here's just a couple nuggets. 2 weeks ago or a week ago, I do these podcasts all the time, and I created the one called Manana Iguana. It came through totally last minute in the run that morning before the podcast. I went downstairs, not even sure if I had the book, thinking I had the book, but it was a children's book from probably 13, 14 years ago when my daughter was little. Like, it's not a book that you probably can find on the shelves right now, is my guess. I haven't looked for it. So I posted such a fun podcast. I'm so enjoying it. Alicia goes into her classroom last week, into the Spanish classroom. Manana Iguana is the storybook that they've been reading, and there's pictures of iguanas all over the room. I mean, it's so silly. It's so silly, and it's so delightful. It's such a wink. Like, of course we are in alignment. Of course I'm in flow, in my flow over here. She's in her flow over there, and we keep bumping into these moments where we flow in alignment. So yesterday I opened this portal of 11:1 through 11:11, and I have asked Alicia to contribute some music and sound and be a part of that portal with me. And so as I was recording on the 31st, the meditation that opens this portal, Alicia, at the exact same time, not knowing I was doing that, is walking the beach in Cape Cod, recording a video of the sunset with light and water, which is exactly what I talk about in the meditation I was making here in Cincinnati. So I make the podcast yesterday thinking it's going to be about activations or grids or awakenings or light. And the very end of my meditation, right before I start recording, it's like, nope, it's this little light of mine. I'm like, really? Interesting. I do the research. I see that it's all about the anthem and the call to action. And so that's the title. I make the podcast. Alicia sends me a message yesterday. She's going to this beautiful memorial honoring in Cape Cod at a synagogue. And they've asked her to sing May I Be at Peace. And she said, I'm so honored. And also I would love to sing This Little Light of Mine because I can feel the power of that song. And she said, but I'm going to go sing my song. She showed up. The program, the first song they're singing, This Little Light of Mine. I mean, I could weep. It's so beautiful. It's just so beautiful when we just show up in our lives and we love and we keep our hearts open and we shine our light. Like, light expands. Light expands, always. Love always expands. And it creates more love. And it just ripples out into the world. So, of course, today, as I get ready to record the podcast about synchronicities, I look at the podcast number, and we're at number 83, which adds up to an 11, which is the number of angels and awakening and perfection. So I am just full of joy and gratitude for this beautiful journey, this beautiful journey that we are all taking. I send you into your weekend with so much love, so much love. Expand that. Create more love this weekend. And I will see you back here on Monday. Thank you for tuning in to today's vibration. Let's take this message of pure love out into all of our communities and continue expanding love here on Gaia. So much love from my heart to yours.